It is the fourth Sunday of Advent. In just a few more days, we, the Church, will celebrate the birth of Jesus. The first reading today is really important in the history of God's relationship with us. It's a covenant almost. David, who was a shepherd, now a military victor, is very comfortable in his home, made of cedar, fine wood. And the ark that was retrieved from David's enemies in the last battle is outside in a tent. And David said, that's wrong. I'm living in this nice house and the presence of God is in a tent. Well, then God speaks to Nathan, kind of a companion of David. And it's a long reading, but if you could take time with it, because a great promise is made. And it's a play on words in a way, because David wants to give God's presence a home. And the play on words here is, God is saying, I will give you a house. Not a building house, but a family house. A long lineage from David, King David, and you can read this in the genealogy in the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, that it goes from David as king to the birth of Jesus, whose father was Joseph. So it's a house, as you would say, a royal house, a family lineage. So that's a huge promise. And that Jesus, in Matthew's Gospel, lays it out very clearly. Jesus is born in the house of David, the town of David, according to the lineage of David. So that's a big promise. And then we have the gospel, the wonderful, wonderful gospel that we hear often, that Mary is now to become the tent where the promise will be fulfilled. The birth of the human man, Jesus. Now, we have two little sayings that are very important here. One is that all interruptions are invitations. So we'll come back to that. But remember that. All interruptions are invitations. Mary is quite interrupted and quite an invitation. The second is that it takes humility to be surprised. It takes humility to be surprised. Why? Because the proud are the controllers. No surprises, thank you. No interruptions, thank you. I am in control. Everything will be laid out. It's going to be clear what are the prospects, what are going to be the results. Control is not a part of a loving relationship. If the relationship is centered around control, that's a business. God enters our family and invites us through this interruption of Jesus to be in the family, the house. So the interruption, and we all have interruptions, and this pandemic is an interruption, but phone calls can be interruptions, or something breaking is an interruption. How do I see it? An interruption takes me out of control in a situation. It's an invitation to my truth, that I am interruptible. I am perhaps needy. So Mary is living a very predictable life as a young woman in the Jewish family tradition, not planning anything except to be married someday and have a family and take care of. the continuation of the Abraham line, the people of Israel. So she's living her life. Not too many interruptions, not too many surprises. But we celebrate her on this fourth Sunday for allowing interruption and surprise. Her life is quite interrupted for the rest of her days. It's going to be a constant interruption until the interruption of the cross, and then the interruption of the resurrection. But we get ahead of ourselves. We are preparing for the birth, for the interruption of our human ways by the divine who comes from outside to inside. Comes from the tent outside to the tent inside, right within our humanity. This week, maybe, we are preparing gifts. Boxes and bags, wrappings. Two things about gifts. A gift to another is kind of an interruption and kind of an invitation, and it does take humility to receive the surprise of the gift. But within the gift are embedded several messages. Number one, the more you love someone, the less you can find a gift for them. Because no gift can say the immensity of the love that you have for that person. And so it's an experience of poverty, simplicity. And you write a note and says, I couldn't find it. It wasn't there. It's nowhere. But the giver is saying something to the receiver about the giver. That God, in giving Jesus to Mary, and Mary giving Jesus to us in the stable in Bethlehem, the giver is saying something about Mary and all humanity. The giver is saying something about the giver. I know you. I know how to come to you. I know what is good for you. I'm not going to force you. I am not a military leader. I am a loving leader. And you know what? I did find it. I did find the perfect gift for you. Saying everything I want to say about myself to you. And in receiving gifts, we have to receive what is the giver saying about the giver. And then the giver is saying something about the receiver, saying something to Mary, saying something to all humanity. You are the beloved, and I want to tell you about yourself. I want to lead you out of ignorance about who you are. And so to receive Christmas is to receive what is God saying about us. Judgment? No. Reception? Reverence? Creation? Yes. I'm not done with you yet. I want you to receive the interruptions. I want you to receive the invitations. But I want you to receive the humility to receive who you are in my eyes. And so I come to you trying to interrupt your sense of control. I come to interrupt maybe what you think of you. And I want to tell you what your Creator, what I think of you, how I hold you, how I reverence you. That's what we are preparing to receive. Jesus has made his home in us. Make your home in me as I have made my home in you, it says in John 15. We are preparing to Let him take more and more, not possession of our wills, but of our affection, of our trust, of our faith. So these days of preparing gifts, and maybe preparing to receive gifts, what is being said? And what is being said by God as we prepare to celebrate the birth of Jesus, which is the tremendous statement of who God is and who we are in God's eyes. We have received the Eucharist. We are longing for the Eucharistic presence in word and in sacrament. Some of us cannot receive the sacrament of the body and blood of Jesus, but we can receive a spiritual communion, trusting. Mary did not know she was pregnant at the moment the angel left. She had to trust. She was in a spiritual pregnancy, a spiritual relationship. That's what we are when we receive the Eucharistic presence spiritually. It's real. And God is still saying, let me tell you who I am, and let me tell you who you are, and will you please receive it for Christmas?